All right, folks, let's get right into it. Today, I want to talk about one of the biggest myths out there when it comes to money. And it comes to money, the idea that debt is normal, necessary, and even good for you.
We've been sold a lie, plain and simple. Everywhere you look, there's a message telling you that you need debt to get ahead in life. Credit card companies are lining up to hand you free
money. Car dealerships are eager to put you in a brand new vehicle with zero down, and banks are practically begging you to take out loans. They call it leverage. They call it leverage. They call it good debt. And they wrap it all up in a shiny package that makes it look like the smart, sophisticated thing to do. But let me tell you something. Debt isn't a tool for building wealth. It's a trap pit. It's a chain that holds you back from reaching your financial goals. And it's time we break that chain once and for all. The first step in understanding why you should avoid debt is realizing what debt really is. It's a form of bondage. I know that sounds harsh, but let's call it what it is. When you owe money to someone, you're not free. You're working for the bank, the credit card company, or the auto lender instead of working for yourself. Every paycheck that comes in is already spoken for, eaten up by payments and interest before you even have a chance to decide what you want to do with it. That's not freedom. That's financial slavery. You can't live your best life, chase your dreams, or build wealth for your future when you're constantly trying to dig yourself out of a hole. And the worst part, we've been conditioned to think this is normal, that everyone has debt and it's just a part of life. But let me tell you folks, and I don't want you to be normal. Think about it. Debt is marketed to us as if it's a way to get what we want faster. Can't afford that new car? No problem. Just finance it. Want to go on a vacation, but don't have the cash. Put it on the credit card. It's all about instant gratification. We live in a culture that tells us we deserve everything we want right now, even if we can't afford it. But here's the truth. When you finance your lifestyle with debt, you're not getting ahead. You're falling behind. You're spending money you don't have on things you don't need, all while digging a financial hole that gets deeper and deeper. And it's not just the big purchases that get you. It's the little ones too. Those small monthly payments add up. Before you know it, you've got a car payment, a credit card bill, student loans, and maybe even a personal loan. You're drowning in payments, and there's no room left in your budget for savings, investing, or giving. Let's get real. Debt is designed to benefit the lender, not you. Do you really think the bank is offering you a loan out of the goodness of their heart? No way. They're making money off you, big money off you. The average American household pays over $1,000 a year in credit card interest alone. That's $1,000 that could have been used to build an emergency fund, start a college fund for your kids, or invest in your future. But instead, it's going straight into the pockets of the credit card companies. They're getting rich while you're stuck making minimum payments that barely cover the interest. It's a losing game, and the only way is to refuse to play. Here's what I want you to understand. Debt is not your friends. It doesn't make you wealthy. It makes you poor. It doesn't give you freedom. It steals it. It doesn't reduce your stress. It doesn't reduce your stress. It increases it.
If you want true financial peace, if you want to build a life of abundance, you have to stop relying on debt to fund your lifestyle. You need to get off the hamster wheel of payments and start living on cash. I know that sounds radical, especially in a world where everyone's using debt for everything, but that's because the majority of people are broke and struggling. They're living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, trapped in a cycle of debt that they can't escape. That doesn't have to be you. You can choose a different path.
When you decide to live without debt, you're making a decision to take control of your financial future. You're saying, I'm done paying interest. I'm done giving my money away. I'm going to live within my money away. I'm going to live within my means and use my income to build wealth, not to make payments.
And let me tell you, that's a powerful decision. It's a decision that will change your life. You'll sleep better at night. knowing that you don't owe anyone anything. You'll feel a sense of freedom and control that you've never experienced before. And you'll have the flexibility to pursue your dreams, to invest in your future, and to give generously without worrying about how you're going to make ends meet. I know it's not easy. Breaking the cycle of debt takes time, discipline, and a lot of hard work. But it's worth it. Every dollar you pay off, every dollar you pay off, every debt you eliminate brings you one step closer to financial freedom. And once you get there, you'll never go back. You'll look back and wonder why you ever thought debt was a good idea in the first place. You'll realize that the things you thought you needed to borrow for weren't worth it, and that the peace and security of living debt-free is far more valuable than any car, vacation, or gadget could ever be. The bottom line is this: debt is a thief, and it's time to stop letting it steal from you. It's time to take a stand to say no to debt and to commit to paying cash for the things you want. It might take longer. You might have to save up, budget, and make sacrifices. But the reward is freedom, true, lasting financial freedom that can't be taken away by interest rates or minimum payments. That's the kind of freedom I want for you, and it's the kind of freedom you deserve. So let's make a commitment today. No more debt. No more debt. No more payments. Just cash. Just freedom. Just a future you can actually be excited about. You've got this, folks. Let's get out there and make it happen. All right, folks, let's dig deeper into what happens when you make the choice to pay with cash instead of relying on debt. I'm talking about real, cold, hard cash, the kind you can feel in your hand, because here's the deal. When you pay with cash, you're in control. You're making a conscious decision to live within your means, to only buy what you can afford, and to say goodbye to the trap of monthly payments that eat away at your paycheck like termites in a wooden house. Paying with cash is about freedom. It's about saying, I own this outright. I don't owe a penny to anyone. It's about taking back your power from the credit card companies, the banks, and the lenders who want you to believe that borrowing is the only way to get ahead. It's not. In fact, borrowing is the fastest way to get behind. When you use cash, you're making a statement. I will not be a slave to debt. Think about the psychology of spending for a minute. When you swipe a credit card, it doesn't feel like real money, does it? It's just a piece of plastic. You hand it over, they swipe it, and the transaction is done before you even have time to process what you just spent. There's no emotional connection, no sense of loss. That's why it's so easy to overspend with credit cards. You don't feel the impact of that purchase until the bill arrives at the end of the month. And by then, it's too late. But when you pay with cash, it's a whole different ballgame. You feel it. You physically hand over those bills and you watch them leave your hand. There's a tangible sense of value, a real connection to the money you've worked hard to earn. It hurts a little bit to hand over that cash, and that's a good thing. It makes you think twice. It makes you think twice. It makes you ask yourself, do I really need this? Is this worth it? That moment of hesitation, that pause, is where smart financial decisions are made. Paying with cash isn't just about avoiding interest charges. It's about building a mindset of recintentional spending. It's about breaking free from the impulse buying that so many of us get trapped in. Let's be honest. The world is designed to make you spend. The stores, the ads, the online shopping sites, they all make it so easy. They all make it so easy. They want you to click, swipe, and spend without thinking. But when you make a commitment to pay with cash, you're putting a barrier between yourself and those impulses. You're forcing yourself to pause, to reflect, and to make sure that every purchase aligns with your goals and your values.
You're no longer just a consumer. You're a conscious decision maker, and that's where real financial power comes from. And let's talk about what happens when you start paying cash for everything. You begin to see your money differently. You start to respect it more.
When you've worked hard to save up and you finally have enough cash to buy that new phone, that piece of furniture or that vacation, it feels different. It feels earned, not borrowed. There's a sense of pride and accomplishment that comes with paying cash.
You know, that you didn't have to rely on anyone else to make it happen. You made a plan, you saved, and you bought it outright.
That's a powerful feeling, and it's a feeling that debt can never give you. Debt feels like a weight. It's a constant reminder that you're paying for yesterday's choices instead of enjoying today.
Cash feels like freedom. It's a symbol of financial independence and discipline.
And folks, let's not overlook the peace of minds that comes from living debt free. There's nothing quite like the feeling of knowing that your paycheck belongs entirely to you.
You're not sending chunks of it off to credit card companies, student loans, car payments, or any other debt collectors. It's yours. You get to decide what to do with it. You can save it, invest it, give it, or spend it on something meaningful. You're in control, and that's a feeling worth fighting for. When you use cash, you're living on your terms, not the bank's. You're not beholden to anyone, and that gives you a level of flexibility and freedom that's hard to describe. If you've never experienced it, it's the difference between living paycheck to paycheck, worrying about every bill, and living with a sense of calm confidence, knowing you've got a plan and you're executing it.
Here's something else I want you to think about. Paying with cash keeps you honest. It forces you to face the reality of your financial situation. When you're paying with credit, it's easy to convince yourself that you can afford something, even if you really can't.
You can rationalize it. I'll pay it off later, or I deserve this. But when you pay with cash, there's no room for excuses. You either have the money or you don't. It's that simple.
And if you don't have the cash, it's a clear signal that you need to wait, to save, or to rethink the purchase altogether. It's a built-in accountability system that helps keep you on track and prevents you from making decisions you'll regret later.
It's like having a financial guardrail in place, and it keeps you from veering off the road into the ditch of debt. The bottom line is this. Paying with cash isn't just about avoiding debt. It's about changing the way you think about money. It's about building a mindset of abundance instead of scarcity. It's about making intentional choices instead of reacting impulsively. It's about living a life that's guided by your values and your goals, not by the expectations of others or the pressure to keep up with the Joneses. When you pay with cash, you're telling the world, I don't need debt to get what I want. I don't need to borrow from my future to live well today. You're choosing a path of financial responsibility, freedom, and empowerment. And that's a path that leads to true wealth, not just in terms of money, but in terms of peace, satisfaction, and joy. You've got the power to make this choice today. It might not be the easiest road, but it's the road that leads to freedom. So let's make a commitment right now. We're going to stop relying on debt. We're going to stop giving our hard-earned money away in interest payments. We're going to live on cash on purpose and with a plan. We're going to take back control of our finances, $1 at a time. You've got this, folks. Let's go out there, live debt-free, and start experiencing the freedom that comes from paying cash. It's time to make your money work for you, not the other way around.
All right, folks, it's time to get into the meat of it. Why debt tricks you into spending more and steals your financial discipline.
This is a tough one because we've all been there. You're at the store. You see something you want, and instead of asking, can I afford this? You swipe the card without a second thought. It's quick, it's easy, and there's no immediate pain. That's the dangerous magic of debt. It dulls your financial senses, making you feel like you're richer than you actually are. It's like putting on a pair of rose-colored glasses that make everything look affordable, when in reality, you're digging yourself deeper into a financial hole with every swipe. Debt makes it too easy to say yes when you should be saying no. And that's how people end up drowning in payments they can barely keep up with. The credit card companies know this. They bank on it. They want you to spend impulsively because every time you do, they make money. It's a trap, folks, and it's time we wake up to it. Here's the truth. Debt disconnects you from the real value of money. When you use credit, you're not feeling the actual cost of what you're buying. There's a psychological barrier between you and your spending, and that barrier numbs your awareness. It's why people who pay with credit cards tend to spend 12, 18 more than people who pay with cash. That's not an accident. That's not an accident. That's by design. Credit cards are engineered to make you comfortable with overspending.
They give you rewards, points, cash back, and airline miles, all to lure you into spending more than you intended.
But let me ask you this. What good is earning 1 cash back if you're carrying a balance of 20 interest? You're not winning. You're losing. You're handing over your hard-earned money to the credit card companies in exchange for the privilege of borrowing from your future self. That's not a good deal, folks. That's financial sabotage. And it's not just about the interest rates either. It's about the mindset that debt creates. When you're comfortable living on credit, you start to believe that borrowing is normal, that it's just a part of life. You justify it. Everybody has a car loan, or it's just a little credit card debt. It's no big deal, but it's no big deal. But it's every time you take on debt, you're taken away from your future.
You're locking yourself into a cycle of payments that can last for years, even decades. You're sacrificing your freedom, your options, and your financial peace for something that's usually not even worth it.
Debt makes you a slave to your past choices, and it robs you of the ability to make better choices in the present. It's like carrying a backpack full of bricks everywhere you go. It slows you down, it weighs you down, it weighs you down, and it makes every step harder than it needs to be. Here's the problem. We've been sold a lie that debt is necessary to build a good life. The culture tells us that if we want a nice car, a big house, a fancy vacation, we need to finance it. Just put it on the card, they say. Take out a loan. You can pay it off later. But what they don't tell you is that by the time later comes around, the thing you borrowed for has lost its luster, but the debt is still there.
The car that was so exciting when you drove it off the lot, it's just another vehicle now, but you're still making payments.
The vacation you charge to your card, it's just a memory, but the bill is still very real.
Debt turns the things that should bring us joy into sources of stress and anxiety. It takes what could be a blessing and turns it into a burden.
Let me tell you, folks, debt kills discipline. It allows you to bypass the process of saving, of planning, of working toward a goal. And that process is important. It's where the real value comes from. When you save up for something and pay cash, you've made sacrifices. You've said no to other things. You've delayed gratification. And when you finally make the purchase, it's sweeter because you know you earned it. You've built character. You've practiced patience, and you've proven to yourself that you have the discipline to live within your means. That's a powerful feeling, and it's a feeling that debt can never give you. Debt is the easy way out, and the easy way out is rarely the path to success. It's the path to regret, to feeling stuck, and to living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine a life where you never have to worry about a credit card bill coming in the mail, where your paycheck isn't already spoken for before it even hits your bank account, where you get to keep what you earn and decide how to use it without the weight of debt hanging over your head. That's the kind of life you can have if you choose to live on cash. It's a life of freedom, of choices, and of peace. But it requires discipline. It requires you to say no when everyone else is saying yes. It requires you to delay gratification, to save up, and to be patient. And let me tell you, it's worth it. The bottom line is this. Debt is a thief. It steals your money, your peace, and your discipline. It takes away your ability to be intentional with your spending, and it tricks you into believing that you're richer than you actually are. But you don't have to live that way. You can choose a different path. You can choose to pay with cash, to live within your means, and to build real wealth instead of chasing a lifestyle you can't afford.
It's not easy. It takes time, sacrifice, and a lot of hard work. But the reward is a life where you're in control, where you get to make the rules and where your money serves you, not the other way around.
You've got this, folks. Let's go out there and start using cash, start making intentional choices, and start living the life we were meant to live, debt-free and full of financial peace. Let's make it happen.
All right, folks, let's have a serious talk about one of the sneakiest traps of all. In interest rates and hidden fees interest rates and hidden fees. This is the side of debt that most people don't see until it's too late.
You walk into a car dealership, a furniture store, or open that shiny new credit card, and they hit you with that magical phrase, 0 interest or low monthly payments. It sounds so good, doesn't it? It's like they're giving you free money. But here's the truth that they don't want you to know. There's no such thing as free money. The banks, the lenders, the credit card companies, they're not charity.
They're in this game to make money, and they make it by charging you interest, piling on fees, and keeping you in a cycle of debt for as long as they possibly can. They lure you in with the promise of low rates, but once they've got you, the real costs start piling up.
Let's break it down.
Say you've got a credit card with an interest rate of 18.
That might not sound too bad, right? Well, let's put that into perspective. If you have a $5,000 balance and you're only making the minimum payment each month, it could take you over 20 years.
That's 2 decades of your life spent paying for something you bought years ago, something that's probably long gone, broken, or forgotten about. And during those 20 years, you'll end up paying thousands of dollars in interest, money that could have been used to build your emergency fund, invest for your future, or take care of your family. But instead, it's going straight into the pockets of the credit card companies. They're getting rich while you're stuck making payments on something you don't even own anymore. That's the reality of debt, folks. It's a losing game, and the only way to win is not to play. And let's talk about those 0 interest offers for a second, because I know they sound tempting. They're designed to sound tempting. Their credit card companies know exactly what they're doing when they offer you that sweet, sweet deal.
They're banking on the fact that you won't be able to pay off the entire balance before the promotional period ends. And guess what happens when that period ends? The interest kicks in, and it's usually backdated to the day you made the purchase.
That's right. They charge you interest on the entire original balance, even if you've been making payments. Suddenly, that interest, free deal, turns into a financial nightmare. It's like signing up for a free trial and forgetting to cancel before they start charging your card. You thought you were getting a deal, but really you just walked straight into a trap. And it's not just interest rates that get you, it's the hidden fees too. Late fees, over limit fees, annual fees, cash advance fees. The list goes on and on. These fees might seem small, but they add up fast. $35 late fee here, $25 over, limit fee there, and before you know it, you're hundreds of dollars in the hole paying fees for the privilege of borrowing money. It's ridiculous, and yet it happens every single day. People don't realize just how much these fees are eating into their hard-earned money. They're too busy trying to keep up with the minimum payments, trying to stay afloat, to see that the fees are the anchor pulling them down. The credit card companies aren't just making money off your interest payments. They're raking it in through these sneaky fees that you might not even notice until it's too late.
Here's what I want you to understand.
The interest and fees you pay are the cost of buying things you can't afford. It's as simple as that. When you take on debt, you're borrowing from your future self. You're saying, I want this now, and I'll deal with the consequences later. But later always comes. And when it does, it comes with a bill that's much higher than you expected. It's like buying a $100 item on credit and ending up paying $200 or more for it by the time the interest is done with you. You're paying a premium for the privilege of getting what you want right now instead of saving up and paying cash. And let me tell you, that premium isn't worth it. The instant gratification you get from using credit is fleeting, but the debt that follows can last for years. You're paying more for everything, not because the things you're buying are worth more, but because you couldn't wait. That's not smart financial planning. That's letting impatience rob you of your financial future. Think about the peace of mind that comes from paying cash. When you pay cash, there are no interest rates, no hidden fees, no surprises down the road. You know exactly what you're spending. And once you hand over the money, it's done. You own what you bought and you walk away without the burden of future payments. There's no bill coming in the mail to stress you out, no nagging worry in the back of your mind about how you're going to make the next payment. It's freedom, pure and simple. And that freedom is priceless. It's worth far more than any credit card rewards, points, or cashback offers ever could be. The real reward of living debt free is the peace that comes from knowing you're in control of your money, not the other way around.
The bottom line is this. Debt isn't just expensive. It's exhausting. It drains your wallet, your time, and your energy. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of payments, interest, and fees that never seem to end. But you don't have to live that way. You can make a choice today to step off the hamster wheel, to stop giving your money away in interest, and to start paying cash for the things you want.
It might take longer to save up. It might mean saying no more often, but the payoff is worth it. It's the difference between living in financial bondage and living in financial freedom.
And that freedom, folks, is something you can't put a price on.
You've got the power to change your financial future right here and right now. It starts with making the decision to pay with cash, to stop letting interest and fees steal from you, and to take control of your money once and for all.
You don't need debt to live well. You just need a plan, some patience, and the discipline to stick with it. You've got this, folks. Let's get out there, say no to debt, say no to debt, say yes to cash, and start living the life of financial freedom we've always dreamed of. It's time to break the chains of interest and fees and step into a future where your money works for you, not for the banks. Let's make it happen.
All right, folks, we've come a long way, and now it's time to talk about one of the greatest benefits of paying with cash, the ability to actually build wealth. Let me tell you something straight. Debt is the enemy of wealth. You cannot build a solid financial foundation if every dollar you make is going toward paying off yesterday's purchases. The math doesn't lie. When you're in debt, your income is tied up in monthly payments, interest charges, and fees. You're playing catch up, trying to dig yourself out of a hole instead of building something meaningful. Paying cash changes the game entirely. When you commit to living without debt, you finally get to keep your money. You're no longer working for the credit card companies, the banks, or the lenders. You're working for yourself, and that's where real wealth begins. Think about it. Every time you choose to pay cash instead of swiping a credit card, you're making a conscious decision to take control of your financial future. You're deciding to live below your means, to spend intentionally, and to put your hard-earned dollars toward things that truly matter.
You're freeing up your income so that you can actually save, invest, and grow your wealth instead of giving it away in the form of interest payments. And it's not just about having more money. It's about having more choices. When you're debt-free, you have options. You can save for emergencies, invest for retirement, give generously, and pursue the dreams you've always had. You're no longer limited by payments and obligations. You're free to build the kind of life you want. Let's talk about investing for a second, because this is where the magic really happens. When you're not sending hundreds of dollars every month to pay off debts, you can start putting that money to work for you in investments that grow over time. You can open a Roth IRA, contribute to your 401k, or invest in mutual funds that build wealth slowly and steadily. And guess what happens when you invest consistently over the years?
Compound interest kicks in.
And that's where the real wealth building happens. Compound interest is like a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's small and the growth is slow. But as time goes on, the snowball picks up more snow. It gets bigger and it starts to grow exponentially. This is how millionaires are made, not by taking on debt, but by investing wisely and letting compound interest do its thing.
It's the power of patience, discipline, and the willingness to say no to debt and yes to a plan. I know some of you might be thinking, but Dave, I need debt to build my credit score. I need a good credit score to buy a house, get a car, or even rent an apartment. That's the myth we've been sold, folks. Your credit score isn't a measure of your wealth. It's a measure of how well you play the bank's game. It's a number that tells the world how good you are at borrowing money and making payments, not how good you are at building wealth. I don't care about your credit score. I care about your net worth because that's the real measure of financial success. Your net worth is what you own minus what you owe. And if you're loaded down with debt, that number isn't going anywhere. The only way to increase your net worth is to get rid of your debt and start piling up assets instead of liabilities. Paying cash also gives you something that's worth more than any interest rate or credit score. Peace of mind. When you don't have debt, you don't have debt, you don't have debt, you don't have to worry about making the next payment, about interest rates going up, or about what happens if you lose your job. You have a sense of calm, of security that you can't put a price on. You're no longer living paycheck to paycheck, stressed out about how you're going to cover your bills. Instead, you're living with a sense of freedom and control, knowing that you own everything you have outright. It's a powerful feeling, and it's something that only comes from making the choice to live without debt. And let me tell you, folks, living without debt isn't just about saying no to bad habits. It's about saying yes to a better future. It's about giving yourself the opportunity to grow your wealth, to make your money work for you instead of the other way around. It's about being able to save for your kids' college education, to take that dream vacation without worrying about paying for it later, to retire with dignity and comfort because you've invested wisely over the year. It's about having the freedom to give generously, to support the causes and people you care about without the burden of monthly payments hanging over your head. That's the kind of life I want for you. A life where you're in control, where you're making the decisions, and where your money is a tool for building the future you want. The bottom line is this: paying cash sets you free to build wealth, while debt keeps you stuck in a cycle of payments and stress. It might take time, and it might mean making sacrifices along the way, but it's worth it. The road to financial freedom isn't always easy, but it's the road that leads to real, lasting wealth. It's the road that gives you the power to live and give like no one else. It's the road that leads to a future where you're not just getting by, you're thriving, you're winning, and you're living the life you've always dreamed of. You've got the power to make this choice today. You can choose to stop borrowing, to start paying with cash, and to begin building wealth that will last a lifetime. You've got this, folks. Let's go out there, live debt-free, and start building a future that's rich in every way that matters. Let's make it happen. All right, folks. We've reached the final chapter of this journey, and it's time to talk about something that brings it all together. Taking control of your life by making the choice to live debt-free. Here's the truth that no one wants to tell you. Debt isn't just a financial problem. It's a life problem. It's a thief that sneaks into your dreams and steals your peace, your joy, and your freedom.
When you're tied down by debt, you're living on someone else's terms.
You're
not truly free because your choices are limited by the payments you have to make every month. Your job, your decisions, your plans, they're all shaped by the need to keep up with your debt. It's like dragging a ball and chain around everywhere you go. But when you decide to live without debt, when you choose to pay cash and live within your means, you break those chains.
You set yourself free, and that freedom is the foundation for a life that's rich, not just in money, but in experiences, in relationships, in purpose. Let me ask you something. What could you do with your life if you weren't weighed down by debt? Imagine waking up every morning knowing that your paycheck is yours to keep. Imagine not having to send part of your hard-earned money off to a credit card company, a bank, or a student loan provider. Imagine the relief of knowing that you don't owe anyone anything, that your income is 100 yours to use however you want. It's a feeling of liberation that most people never experience because they're stuck on the debt treadmill running as fast as they can just to stay in place.
But you don't have to be like everyone else. You can choose a different path, a path where your money works for you, where you're building wealth, and where you're making decisions based on what's best for you and your family, not what's dictated by your debt. When you live debt-free, you open the door to opportunities that you never thought possible.
Yeah.
You can save for your kids' college without taking out loans. You can give generously to your church, to charities, to people in need.
You can invest in your retirement with confidence, knowing that you're setting yourself up for a future where you can enjoy your golden years without the stress of making payments. You can take a job you're passionate about, even if it pays less, because you don't need as much income to cover a mountain of debt. You can take risks, pursue your dreams, start a business, or travel the world because you're not business, or travel the world because you're not tethered to a pile of monthly obligations.
Debt is a dream killer. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you small. But when you decide to live without it, you unlock a world of possibilities. You start living a life of abundance, a life on your own terms. Now, I know it's not easy. We live in a culture that tells us debt is normal, that it's just part of life. From the moment we turn 18, we're bombarded with credit card offers, student loan applications, car financing deals. It's everywhere.
It's as if the world expects us to go into debt just to function as adults. But here's the thing. Normal is broke-ass. Normal is living paycheck to paycheck.
Normal is living paycheck to paycheck. Normal is having student loans that you're still paying off in your 40s. Normal is financing a car that loses value the moment you drive it off the lot.
Normal is stress, anxiety, and financial worry.
I don't want you to be normal. I want you to be different.
I want you to be weird because weird is debt-free. Weird is paying cash. Weird is living in financial peace. And that's the kind of life that's worth fighting for. You're not going to get there by accident. You have to be intentional. You have to make a plan, create a budget, and stick to it. You have to say no to the things you can't afford so you can say yes to the things that really matter. You have to learn to be content with what you have and resist the pressure to keep up with everyone else. It takes discipline, it takes sacrifice, and it takes a willingness to go against the grain.
But I promise you, it's worth it. When you reach that place of financial freedom, when you can look at your bank account and know that every dollar is yours, it's a feeling like no other.
It's a sense of accomplishment that no purchase, no vacation, and no status symbol could ever give you.
And here's the beautiful part. You get to pass this freedom on. When you choose to live debt-free, you're not just changing your own life. You're changing the legacy you leave for your family. You're setting an example for your kids, teaching them what it looks like to live with integrity, discipline, and wisdom. You're showing them that it's possible to live well without borrowing, that they don't have to follow the crowd into a life of debt and stress. You're giving them a gift that will last a lifetime, the gift of financial literacy, of freedom, of options, and that's something money can't buy. It's a legacy that goes beyond dollars and cents.
It's a legacy of freedom, and it's one of the greatest gifts you can give. So here's my challenge to you. Make the decision today.
Decide that you're done with debt, that you're going to take control of your financial future, and that you're going to live a life of freedom.
Start with a plan. Create a budget. Cut up the credit cards and commit to paying cash from this day forward. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight.
But every step you take, every debt you pay off brings you closer to a life where you're in control, where you're the one calling the shots. It's a journey worth taking, and it's a journey I know you can complete.
You've got the power, the discipline, and the courage to do this. You've got everything you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. A life where you're free from debt, free from stress, and free to live and give like no one else. The bottom line is this: debt steals your future, but paying cash gives it back to you. It's time to take a stand. It's time to take a stand. It's time to say no more to debt and yes to freedom. You can do this, folks. You can change your financial future. You can build wealth, find peace, and live the kind of life you've always wanted. It starts with a single choice, a single step in the right direction. Let's take that step today. Let's commit to living debt free, to paying cash, and to building a future that's full of hope, opportunity, and joy. You've got this. Let's make it happen.